Jayan sir, and first of all, please allow me to thank you for the honor and privilege of hosting you, sir, and thank you for accepting our request. Ladies and gentlemen, you're aware that the Indian Armed Forces are undergoing a massive transformation, and the CDS is leading that transformation in many ways. Today, we're going to speak to him about, what that transformation is all about. There are so many things. It cannot be bracketed under one point. There are various points, and we're going to speak to him about all of these. And sir, may I start by asking you, sir, during the Aero India show, the Honorable Raksha Mantri released a document on multi-domain operations in network-centric environment. What exactly does this document include, and what is the significance of this document, sir?
Okay. We all know that warfare is increasingly becoming digitized, network, and intelligent. So in future, I think artificial intelligence, data analytics, supercomputing, such kind of technologies will play a pivotal role in deciding the outcome of combat. So the Indian Armed Forces actually want to transit from what I say as net-centric warfare to data-centric warfare or intelligentized warfare. And this particular document is an abridged and unclassified version of a bigger document which we have released to the services, which lays out a roadmap to get our capabilities for a data-centric warfare. So that essentially involves a number of things, like you have to have, when we talk about net-centric or data-centric warfare, you are looking at first is network security, redundancy, latency of kind of data flow. It is looking at use of artificial intelligence, data storage, data collection, data analytics. It's also looking at basically terrestrial networks, how to combine it with mobile networks, etc. And also our HR philosophy, how do we train people. So it's a holistic kind of a document which lays down responsibilities for each and every section of the armed forces as to how we transit towards this digital-centric kind of warfare.
Also, the second question is the most interesting as far as I'm concerned. So I wanted to ask you about the integrated theatre commands. They've been mentioned as one of the agenda for the year of reforms. Other nations have taken years to effect such transformations. What is your visualized roadmap, and how do you intend to progress on this transformative change in the Indian Armed Forces, sir?
This is not yours, but everyone's favorite question actually about theatre commands. So let me briefly first explain about this little concept and what we are trying to do actually. We are essentially trying to separate out the force generation from force application. So till now, both these responsibilities were vested with the service headquarters or the service chiefs. So he was responsible for recruitment, he was responsible for training, he was responsible for acquisition of equipment, maintenance, etc. So force generation as well as force application was one responsibility. Now we are trying to separate that out. So we are trying to nominate a theatre commander who would be capable of carrying out multi-domain operation, that means in all the three domains, including support from, say, space and cyber. And that will be called a theatre, which is a geographical kind of entity. This is what we are attempting to do. In this, while in this whole process, what you said that other countries have taken a lot of time, and what we are trying to do, both the other countries actually followed a top-down kind of a model in implementing these theatre commands, because obviously there were a lot of differences between the services. So Americans had this Goldwater-Nicholas Act. The Chinese also had a top-down kind of an approach. Ours is the only country which is trying to attempt a bottom-up approach. So the government has given you a kind of a guideline. So the CCS note which approved the creation of the CDS says that I have to create theatre commands. It's been mentioned in my allocation of business rules or transaction of business rules that I have to create a theatre command. Having given this direction, they left it to the services to build that necessary consensus for creation of that, thing which I have done for the past 1.5 years. So for us, I think that this process of creating theatre commands will be smoother, better, and faster. So that is an essential thing which is different from other countries. What we have done till now is, this will require a major restructuring of service headquarters, at least, and creation of new headquarters. So the nitty-gritties of all that has been by and large finalized. Obviously, this has connect with something on top, the Higher Defense Organization and the National Decision-Making Body, and below to regional commands. So those nitty-gritties are being finalized, what will be their roles and responsibilities. But we are ready in the sense that whenever there's a green-head given, go-ahead given to it, 12 to 18 months is the time to transit from the current system to the next system.
So we had spoken about the integration initiatives which were to pave the way for joint structures in my earlier conversation with you also, sir. Two of the areas where integration was being attempted were operations and logistics. Can you tell us of the progress we have made in the last few months, sir? I'm specifically asking about operations and logistics.
So again, let me just try and explain what integration is. It's kind of co-joining of very diverse kind of entities. And largely it's a physical process with tangible kind of results. So whenever you integrate things, diverse entities, so it leads to optimization and saving of, say, either manpower, time, resources, infrastructure, or even processes or finances and resources. Whenever we are trying to integrate, it necessarily need not lead to creation of theatre commands, but it's an essential prerequisite for creation of theatre commands that we integrate. And two important things are you just mentioned. Logistics is one, and second is operational activity. So as far as integration of logistics is concerned, logistic means what? It's like demands, procurement, provisioning, placement, and their movement during operations. So unless we are able to digitize our inventories, we won't be able to demand and procure properly. So that has been done individually service-wise. Now we are trying to see that the three services integrity are able to speak, they are able to speak to each other. So that's a major challenge. Once we are able to do that, we'll be able to streamline provision and procurement. That will lead to a huge amount of saving. That's on the way. And then, of course, is placements. In the film which you would have shown before this, we spoke about joint logistic nodes. So 3 of them are already functional. And we have about 4 more on the cards, and then few more. The ultimate aim should be that at some point in time, 4 or 5 years down the line, we have one integrated logistic force and not service-specific logistic force. That should be the aim, actually, and we should work towards it. As far as integration of operational activity is concerned, again, there are 3 things. One is you should have joint concepts and doctrines. Then they should have joint structures, or there should be interlinkages between them. And then you should be able to jointly validate what you have done. So we are coming out in this year with a number of joint doctrines. That will come out about 8-10 of them. We'll also are looking at common procedures for operations. We have almost common alert levels, etc. Similarly, linkages are concerned. We are going to integrate our communication, air defense network, ISR network. So this is all, it's a work in progress and it's continuous kind of a process.
So the recent conflicts have proven that technological advancements are having a telling impact on warfare and warfighting. How do you see the future wars manifesting, and how are we preparing for them?
I started by saying that warfare is increasingly becoming network, digitized and intelligent. So in this, let's add that it's also becoming transparent, it's also becoming multi-domain, and it's also becoming autonomous. So correctly predicting how the wars will be fought in future is rather difficult, and to predict that with accuracy is a very difficult task. But then I can give you some kind of trends actually as to warfare, where it is progressing. The first trend I've already spoken about actually in the first question. That's warfare is becoming far more intelligent today. So you'll be able to use data analytics so that your decisions which you take during combat are far better and faster than the adversary. That's one trend which is future warfare is moving towards. The second trend is to do something with celerity, that is speed and velocity. That's because of advances in stealth technologies. That's because of advances in hypersonics. That's because of advances in drones, swarm drones, etc. So you have a range of platforms which can hit you from a small cross section to a large cross section, from a very slow mover to something which is moving at Mach 4, Mach 5. And all these platforms can be routed intelligently, so they're almost undetectable, inaudible, and hence targeting them is rather difficult. So this is one second trend which is moving. And third trend is towards robotics and automation. So, and autonomous systems. That's another technological trend. So that will produce combat probably in future between humans and machines, and in future machines and machines. There are some other technologies like quantum or space technology, cyber technologies. They are adding on to this particular three trends which I have identified. And for all of this, I think there is a need for us to lay a kind of roadmap. So first one we've laid, we'll be working towards the other two trends also. We should.
So we're now going to talk about space. It's proving to be critical when it comes to modern warfare, sir. There's been a lot of discussion on space. And what kind of role do the Indian Armed Forces visualize space to play in our future conflicts, and what measures are we taking towards enhancement of our space capabilities?
So space is huge, means infinite, they say. And when we look at space, it has actually geographically kind of shrunk the Earth. But then I think it's also increased the battle space. In the sense, a new domain to warfare has been added in space. We all know that assets based in space, that satellites, help you in three major things. That's your ISR activity, that is one. Second is communication, and third is position and timing. So all three are actually fundamental to that OODA cycle. That is observe, orient, the act and decision and then to act. So this is essential. So if you are able to control such activities from space, I think that particular side will have an edge. But as I said, space is actually vast. So there's interplanetary space. So as military, we are not looking at that kind of a space. What we are limiting ourselves is to Earth's orbit. That's about all. That's LEO, that's a low Earth orbit, MEO, that's medium, and then geostationary orbit, in which most of these capabilities reside. As to what we are doing about it, we've already heard that program in which we are supposed to launch those 52 odd satellites. And there are certain more programs which are on the anvil to increase our capabilities in the three areas which I said. But I think more important than that is developing a kind of a space culture. We should focus on that. When you had the seafaring nations, when the maritime domain came in, so you had the seafaring culture and, in the maritime domain. And similarly, in aerospace domain, you had that particular aeronautical kind of a culture. For a nation to become a power in that, this is important. For us, we'll have to develop that space culture, and I think military will have to take the lead. That, I think, is important, other than creating these physical assets. Both are important.
So we have cyberspace now. After space, we go to cyberspace. Despite being a new domain of warfare, is seemingly transforming modern military operations. So what is our preparedness against cyber threats in an increasingly digitized battlefield?
Cyber is a new domain, but is entirely different from existing domains. Means like it's synthetic, it's man-made. You don't live and fight from it, actually. So you control it from outside. Right in the beginning, I told you that warfare is moving from net-centric to data-centric kind of warfare. That kind of a capability, that will increasingly rely on networks. So, and then, of course, they'll be susceptible to cyber attacks. Now, that will be a major challenge. Presently, all our networks may be air-gapped, but tomorrow, we'll have to connect them to mobile networks, we'll have to connect them to space. So there'll be increasing vulnerability. Also, there are technological advancements. SEMA is one field in which you can actually skip air-gapped networks. So in the area of cyber, I think it will be a cat and mouse game. And we have to be constantly evolving, understanding threats and finding solutions to it. There's no one fixed solution to it. It will be absolutely a game of technology, one after the other. We'll have to continue playing it.
So you've highlighted a very positive scenario for our future capabilities, but unfortunately, sir, our procurement procedures are dated, cumbersome, and time consuming. Will we actually be able to achieve our aspirations with such a lethargic process?
So we are looking at, when we look at procurements, it's about preparedness. And the two things go simultaneously. So what we are looking at is procurement with a particular purpose. So till now, we has to have a thing like long-term perspective plans, which the three services used to make, which should be combined by headquarter ideas into a LTIPP, long-term integrated perspective plan. So that was by and large a thread-based kind of a system. We again are transiting to an ICDP kind of a model, integrated capability development plan, which is more to do with capabilities. We try and understand what kind of a capabilities we require. Then we derive number of military objectives which we have or missions which we have. And for those missions, what kind of a capabilities we must acquire. If it translates to platforms, then we can say that this platform will be held by the Air Force or the Navy or the Army. That's the system we are trying to formulate. It's a new thing. Hopefully by end of this year, 2025, we should be able to field a new ICDP. The second part is procurements. That is of course a procedure based on DAP 2020, and that of course should be under revision, for which we are trying to provide for the services some good inputs which should be in tune with what I just said about the kind of warfare which is changing. We can't have procurements running 8 or 10 years behind. So this, say I could give an example like, till today, procurements are all about acquisition of platforms, existing platforms. There is no investment in technology. So, and all what I said was about technologies actually, which will translate into, some will translate into systems or weapon systems in future or platforms. So that could be one. There's a lot of people, earlier everything was being done by DPSUs or ordnance factories. Today there's a huge private sector which is there. And people are actually developing platforms, so we could think of suo motu proposals from them. So such kind of procurement procedures will have to find a place so that we are able to procure things in a faster time frame.
So with that, I come to the last question of this fireside chat. So 2025 has been declared as the year of reforms by the Honorable Raksha Mantri, sir. What is the roadmap that you have stipulated for the armed forces for 2025?
So, when the Honorable Raksha Mantri laid out the called 2025 as the year of reforms, for the armed forces, he laid down quite clearly that we should be able to take care of all kind of threats in a multi-domain kind of environment. So the particular statement is there. For us, number of things I've already spoken about, but if we were to kind of put these things into 4 or 5 big headings, one could be your organizational or structural changes, towards which asset theatre commands and this creation of new things would be one. It would also involve conceptual or doctrinal kind of changes, which briefly I mentioned that we are working towards a number of doctrines related to new domains and new type of warfare and multi-domain operations. So this all hopefully in a very, very fast kind of a time frame, I hope to get these things done in this year itself. We are also trying to come out with a number of policy statements on how we are looking at, the armed forces are looking at technologies, whether it is artificial intelligence, quantum computing, lethal and autonomous weapons. So this is the part on the conceptual and doctrinal side. We could also look at procedural. So procedural could be something to do with ICDP, which I just said, or changes in the DAP system, that is Defense Acquisition Procedure. And there could be even, say, cultural changes. I've been speaking about joint culture in the services, which is slightly different from a Army or Navy or Air Force specific culture, so that we are able to work in a joint kind of environment. Or sometimes we also talk about anti-colonial kind of approach. So these are few things in which we are working. For this year, we'll have a definite roadmap and what we want to achieve. But this should be also seen in the larger context of what the heading of this thing is, Bharat at 2047. So we're also looking at armed forces at 2047. So this is about a vision statement for 2047. So hopefully we should be able to get that thing out also by middle of this year.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause.
Thank you very much, General Chauhan and Major Arya, for sharing your thoughts. We'd like to request General Chauhan to please release a very special publication that we have, the second edition of Chanakya Diaries, a biannual publication, special magazine